At Direct Service Garage Doors, we are your one-stop shop for all things garage door. From garage door repair and broken spring replacement to new garage doors and openers, we do it all. We're proud to be among the highest-rated local garage door companies in all of Central Arkansas. Our highly trained technicians are available 24 hours a day at no extra cost to you. So if you have an emergency, call us today, 501-244-3667, or visit our website at directserviceoverhead.com. Don't wait days. We'll fix it now.
All right, man. You ready?
Yeah. I don't see you though.
You don't see me? Oh yeah. You just see do you see the post-game show screen? Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, it just has a Hogville Net logo and then
Yeah, that's by design. Here we go.
So I'm not going to see you.
They probably no, you will. Yeah. There we go. Don't know what's going on with the overlay not wanting to work, but all right, we're live. This is we're kind of we're doing the best that we can. This is I don't know why the overlay is not working the way that it should. But hey, we're happy. Kevin McPherson's here. Kevin, hey, first off, how are you doing?
Well, I mean, you strap in that third quarter because things got a little bit nuts, and I think Cincinnati showed why it's been one of the top football programs. You can't discount that program due to the fact that it hasn't been in a Power 5 conference. We know that. They got to the semifinals last year, the playoffs. Yeah, they lost some players, but when you've got a momentum like that as a program, you come in thinking you can win on any field, and I thought this was a great game. It turned out to be a great game. Statistically, a lot of it was even. We're going to get through all of it, Ty. But the Razorbacks knock off a ranked opponent, I think, for the first time in 48 years in a season opener, which is a big deal. So you have to go back, I think, to 1975.
It's pretty remarkable. I was there for the first half. You could feel the electricity in the air. It was absolutely insane. I again, in a position I've never been in. I'm viewing the game from the media box. I've never had that experience before, so it was definitely a little different. And exciting. You could feel just the vibrations coming up through the floor. It was just crazy. Fayetteville was absolutely wild. Welcome everybody to the very first ever Hogville postgame show. We've got some kinks to work out. We're trying to figure this whole bad boy out, but we're having fun along the way. Kevin McPherson, who's going to help us break this thing down. Make sure you guys, well, first off, go check out, of course, all things, football, basketball, baseball, whatever, completely free at hogville.net. If you're new here, well, subscribe, like the stream, interact, feel free to ask questions. We're going to do the best that we can to answer them. If you've got any comments, we'll also try to show those on the screen, and we're going to have fun with this. That's the whole goal. We're going to have fun. You guys are going to have fun. We're going to talk about the game and try to break it down as best that we can. So we will have later on, hopefully, if all goes according to plan, we'll get Dudley Dawson on, and Dudley will come on eventually as well. I got to keep my phone where I can see it because he's going to shoot me a text when he's ready to go. So yeah, everything free at hogville.net. Kevin McPherson also does basketball. So we've also got a little bit of basketball later on, but we'll keep with football. We'll start there, and then Kevin will get caught up on some basketball stuff. Kevin, I guess really the first thing, what stood out to you the most, whether it be positive or negative in this game?
I think the positive is I thought Arkansas's defense for the most part was bend it but don't break on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, Cincinnati had something to do with that, right? I mean, the interception when they get on Arkansas' side of the field, the fumble late in the game, some missed field goals, but Arkansas did its part there. That's not like, Arkansas's defensive back, the transfer from LSU, McLaughlin, made a great play on that ball, returned it 51 yards. Arkansas nearly scores immediately. So I think the biggest takeaway, just in a nutshell, Arkansas wins the turnover battle because both teams were almost even on offense. Total yards, Arkansas has 11 more yards, 447 to 436. Both teams were 8 of 16 on third downs. Both teams had 23 first downs in this game. But Arkansas wins the turnover battle. And when you look at it, Arkansas cashed in both of those turnovers into touchdowns, really quick strike touchdowns, 14 points. Arkansas has the one turnover at its goal line at the 3-yard line. And then Cincinnati proceeds to get 4 5-yard penalties, backed up, moved a little bit forward, and finally kicked a field goal. I mean, it was their first field goal, and Arkansas needed that because that field goal made it 10 unanswered points for the Bearcats, and now they're within 21-17. Arkansas comes back, responds with a field goal. But I think those turnovers on really, when you look at how balanced this game was statistically, I think those just winning 2-1, it's not a huge gap, but it was the points thereafter, 14-3, and Arkansas wins a game by 7. On offense, Arkansas really, I thought, running the ball and passing the ball, they were balanced. 1 yard difference, 223 through the air, 224 on the ground. But, KJ Jefferson totals 4 touchdowns. Other than that fumble at the goal line, other than a couple of funky plays that he got 2 lost yardage plays that put Arkansas back near the goal line, darn near a safety. But other than that, this guy was money, man. I mean, over 300 yards or right around 300 yards total offense with those 4 touchdowns, 3 through the air. But he was so good on third downs today. I mentioned Arkansas was 8 of 16, so 50% there, but so good on third downs. And then against the blitz, 8 of 9 passing, 105 yards, and a couple of touchdowns. So when the heat was on and it really mattered, KJ Jefferson stepped up. You had Rocket Sanders with his second career 100-plus yard rushing game in Arkansas. You put his effort today with his last game against Penn State in the Outback Bowl when he went for nearly 80 yards in that game. I mean, 2 outs, roughly 200 yards, a really nice yards per carry average. A couple of TDs against Penn State, didn't get in the end zone today. And then we've got a lot more to talk about with some of those weapons in that offensive backfield and at the lining up at receiver for Arkansas.
What did you make of Malik Hornsby coming in? We knew that was going to happen, but he was out there way more than I thought we would see him. He would line up in the slot or outside at wide receiver. Then they had a play where pre-snap he moved over. KJ moved over to the slot, and then he took over at quarterback. I mean, clearly, of course, it's by design. Of course, we knew that this was going to happen. Were you a little surprised by how they used him in the passing game and the running game, shifting him over and moving him? Or is that just about as expected, about what you probably would expect from Malik Hornsby and what they want to do with him?
I think it's expected. The guy jumped in the portal after last season. They called him back, and you got to get that guy on the field. He's going to be on the field and play and have a chance to have an impact. And, the double pass, I guess it was actually a lateral, and he was going to pass and ends up turning that to a 13-yard gain. But he's a weapon on the field. Defenses have to game plan for him because there's enough film on him. They know who he is and know about that speed. And so it makes other players better. And I just think any chance you can get Hornsby on the field to help your team, you do it. And Arkansas's got some toys. We know Dominic was not healthy enough to play. He's not back yet, the big bruising back.
Yeah.
And we talked about Sanders, but even though you're missing a piece in that backfield, Hornsby's a home run threat every time he touches the ball. And so I think it's smart to get him on the field.
Yeah, I'm with you. It wasn't completely surprising, but the lead up throughout fall camp was that, we don't need him out there as much. At least that was the takeaway from myself, Otis, Kirk, several other media members, was that they don't need him out there. Matt Landers, Warren Thompson, Jaden Hazelwood, we saw bits and pieces of them today. But they stepped it up through fall camp. It didn't seem like we would. I don't know. It wasn't surprising again because we kind of knew it was coming. But at the same time, maybe they used him out there a little more than I thought. But yeah, you're right. You've got to use him. He's a dangerous weapon. He takes up 10 yards in a hurry, and we saw it with that 13-yard scramble. David Elliott says, tired of bend don't break defense. How about a stop defense? Come on, Hogs. Says David Elliott, he's not happy with that bend don't break. Never mind the fact that, they had some injuries, Kevin. I mean, at one point in time, Hudson Clark was out. We know Bishop's out. We don't know what's going on with him. Catalon, once again, another injury. And, of course, he was back out there. I think at one point his arm was wrapped. I guess it wasn't later on, but they were a little banged up. I mean, I think that's something we got to consider.
Well, the other thing is bend but don't break. I understand that. There's two sides of that. You want a dominating defense. Arkansas at times, I mean, you pitched a shutout in the first half. Again, a lot of that was self-inflicted wounds by Cincy, but Arkansas made some plays. And I think when you start talking about the Cincy starting 3 for 3 on third down conversions in that first drive, then the pick. After that, Arkansas pitched a shutout on third downs. Cincy went 0 for 6 in its next third down attempt. So there were stretches in the game where Arkansas was doing its job. When you look at the total yards, both teams well over 400, you're going to say it wasn't a good defensive effort. Yeah, I don't know how many snaps. I need to go back and look at the stats that Cincinnati had today, but it seemed like somewhere between 45 to 50% of those snaps were on Arkansas' side of the field. But they didn't have a whole lot to show for that. About 140 yards on those snaps. That's not there's only so much territory you've got to rack up yards anyway. But when you consider that many snaps, I think it was 35 snaps on Arkansas' side of the field, about 140 yards. They had 2 missed field goals in there, an interception, a fumble that was recovered on the other side of the 50 by Arkansas late, and that really sealed things because Arkansas got back in the end zone. And then they had those penalties. They had 6 second-half penalties on Arkansas' side of the field that really hurt them. We talked about that after that fumble recovery on the 3. And, something else that I thought was odd in this game, Cincinnati had 7 one-play disqualifications because of helmets coming off. And when your helmet comes off on the field of play, you have a one-play disqualification. You have to leave. So I don't know how much that impacted that team, but it was, some of the stuff that Arkansas was able to do. That's why I said bend but don't break, is as much time as Cincinnati spent on that side of the field and as many plays as it ran. And Arkansas really, there was a 17-point run in that third quarter where things got really dicey. Outside of that, in 3 quarters, Arkansas held Cincinnati to 7 points. And granted, it was anybody's game at the end, and, Arkansas runs out the clock. But at the same time, I thought, Arkansas can clean some things up and fix some things there. And this is an outstanding opponent. Let's not forget, this is a team that won its first 13 games last year before losing to Alabama, in the national semifinals, back-to-back losses to SEC teams. But I want to talk about some of the statistical things that go in Arkansas's way today, too, not just on the field, but for the program, because there's some stuff that's really a feather in Arkansas's cap.
Well, let's hear it. What do you got? Go ahead.
Okay, so Arkansas is now 3-3 against ranked teams, going back to the start of last season, which is good. I mean, Arkansas, we know what a desert it was just to get wins. Now you've won, 3 of 6 against ranked teams, going all the way back to the start of last season. Arkansas has now won 10 of its last 14 games, going back to the start of last season. You have to go back for their previous 10 wins, 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2 of the wins that Pittman had in his first year at Arkansas to cobble together 10 wins. Arkansas has now won 10 of its last 14. And when I start thinking about how you build success with a program, it's beating ranked teams, right? Arkansas is doing that now. Like I said, 3-3 in their last 6. You start winning. You got almost, you didn't get to double-digit wins last year. Arkansas, was an Ole Miss win. Obviously we could look back and live in the past, but they were close to getting to those 10 wins. But now you start off beating a ranked team that really, again, is a strong program. This has been a very strong program. So this is something really big, I think, to build on. And when I start thinking about, through 24 games now that Pittman's been at Arkansas, he's 13-11. He's the only coach at Arkansas to have a winning record after his first 24 games since Houston Nutt. You have to go back to Houston Nutt's first 2 seasons, 98, 99. Really, arguably, 2 of his top 3 seasons for as long as he was at Arkansas. And he was 17-7, not Bobby Petrino. And we know the coaches that came after him didn't do much. But nobody had a winning record after their first 24 games outside of Houston Nutt. You have to go back that far. But Pittman's done that now at 13-11. So I think there's a lot of things when we look at what's going on in the program right now. It's not just that they turned a corner from being really bad to being okay. They're pretty darn good right now. Now, we've got a lot of season left. And there were some, areas that need to be obviously in a first game, though, Ty, got to remember that. And this is a program that doesn't quite have the program momentum that even Cincinnati had. Yeah, they don't play in the SEC, that team and that program, but they've been pretty darn good for a while. Arkansas figured it out last year, and this is the way you build on that in a second year of maybe momentum in the program.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and this is a hell of a way, pardon my language for some of you, hell of a way to start the year. Like you said, it's a historical win because it's your first win, your first ranked win in decades since before I was born. Okay, I was born in '83. That's a long time. Of course, it helps too when you don't play a lot of ranked opponents. We know how the history goes too with that. Arkansas typically opens up against a cupcake. That used to be the case, up until really maybe 2020, and it seems like since then it's changed a little bit. Although Rice wasn't exactly an elite team last year, they were scrappy. And then you had Cincy. But no, you're right. There's a lot of the corner feels like it has been turned.
Yeah.
At Arkansas, it feels like, okay, the expectation should be more than just getting to a bowl game, and Sam's just continues to prove people wrong week by week, kind of like what Musselman did with the basketball program, Eric or Kevin. I don't know why I called you Eric.
Look, Sam Pittman is now 6-0 at Arkansas in non-conference games. They didn't play conference games in his first year, the COVID-shortened year, 10 games all against league opponents. By the way, that season opener was against a highly rated Georgia team in Fayetteville. Arkansas hung around for a while before having the brakes beaten off in the second half. But you mentioned it. Last year, you got Texas, a ranked team in Fayetteville in week 2, not the season opener. You did open with Rice. This year, you get a ranked team and a strong program. So I think, but again, 6-0 in non-conference games, counting the Penn State win 24-10 in the Outback Bowl in their last game played. But I think, when I'm looking at these margins, I mentioned, if you go back to Pittman's first season, they did go on the road, I believe, and beat a ranked Mississippi State team, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was a road win. So he's got 4 wins total now against ranked teams, but by an average double-digit margin. That's the other thing. Today was a 7-point win. Sometimes your margins can be skewed, but last year you had double-digit wins over both Texas and A&M early in the year, and then Arkansas hit that rough patch. We know that. Today I think Arkansas, to me, had its opportunities to win this game by 14 or more points. Usually when you don't, it's because you're making a ton of mistakes. Arkansas made less mistakes than its opponent. But you also learn from this with the win. You're not learning off a loss. You're learning with a win. Yeah. And it's one of a top 10 attendance game ever at Arkansas?
That's what they said, yeah, top 10, yep.
What was the final number on attendance? Did you see it?
I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't had a chance to look, but I'm a little bit surprised by that because by the end of the first quarter, the north end zone, there were gaps in the north end zone. You could see, and I get it. Those tickets are expensive over there. I understand it, but still, I was a little bit surprised to hear them say that it was that high, but that's outstanding. Look what happens when you play a ranked opponent. People show up, and it helps when you're good. This is a funny comment. You were talking about the helmets falling off. Where'd it go? Hang on. Someone said something about thinking Dollar Tree for their chin strap for their chin straps. There it is.
You get what you pay for. You can cut corners, but your head might get cut off in the process. If it's chin straps, you're nickel and diming. I've never seen a game where so many helmets came off without, really, I didn't see one egregious situation where it all seemed to be due to some lack of some failure on their equipment group over there, because that's one way to get off the field is make sure your helmet comes off.
Yeah. True. Yeah. If that's what, if you went off the field and you need a little help. My phone's going crazy here. Hang on just a second. You need to get off the field. You need a breather. Just don't buckle your chin strap or whatever. Like David here said, thanks to Dollar Tree for selling Cincy them chin straps. Thanks Bryant for not being able to hide an open receiver. Let's talk about that for a second. And I know you had to have seen it. I saw it while I was there, and I saw it at home. Of course, I had to run home at halftime to get here and get everything set up. Their receivers were open, and they were open a lot.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on that? Is this just, you think it's something that they're going to get figured out before they've got Spencer Rattler coming into town next weekend.
Right.
So
they need to get it figured out, Ty. They missed some opportunities in that first half. Arkansas pitched a shutout, but some of that again was on Cincinnati. We talked about missed chip shot field goal, turning over when they get on Arkansas side of the field early. The penalties really didn't start hurting them into the second half, but you're right. They had guys open and just overshot them. These were home run balls and nobody around. And then they started connecting on some of that in the second half, and we saw that. Is it correctable? That's a great question because, we know that you're going to. The idea is you need to be better. You ought to be better in your problem areas by game 2. Sometimes it is correctable stuff, and sometimes it's just a combination of things that maybe bug you and pick at you and bite at you all year long. And you hope that doesn't happen because you're right. Cincinnati's a heck of a program and a good team, but I wouldn't call this a great team. And Arkansas's got some really good teams and maybe a couple of great teams on the schedule this year. And you got a quarterback that believes in himself coming in, one of the cockiest in the country. I promise you that. It's in Fayetteville, but the last thing Sam Pittman wants is a repeat of guys running unchecked down the field, and it was too much of that. I thought. I agree with you today.
Yeah, the first half it was. This is what I was hearing from folks that I talked to in our Discord, in the Tuss Talk with Ty Discord. The thing that was kind of being discussed was, the second half opened up for them offensively because of all the injuries. While I do agree, Slusher and Catalon getting banged up was huge. Say what you want about Hudson Clark. I think he did okay today. These guys were still running free in the first half when all those guys were on the field. Right. I think this was a corner. This was the corners, and maybe it's conversations that aren't happening between the safeties and the rest of the secondary. I don't know, but those guys, they were wide open. They were just simply overthrown. Someone made the comment that Arkansas didn't beat Cincinnati. Cincinnati beat themselves. Defense looked terrible. I don't know that I fully agree with that. And offense only worked when they were throwing past the line of scrimmage, but they don't do that enough.
Yeah. Well, if you notice, and I really try to pay attention to this, Arkansas did not make plays over the top of Cincinnati's defense. Nope. It was underneath stuff that they broke off, whether it was a run getting around the edge. Sanders had a nice bust up the gut to get Arkansas off its 5-yard line for about 24 yards. Some of their bigger plays were just guys run after catch. Of course, Jefferson doing his thing, sometimes just kind of rolling over people and getting extra yardage when he keeps it. And that nice touchdown run to get Arkansas on the board early, I thought, really shows us why he's so tough to game plan for. But Arkansas did not stretch the field with its passing game. And I don't know if that was because it just wasn't there and you're trying to take what the defense is giving you. You game plan for these things. Jefferson had some big plays last year. We know, that his biggest weapon and maybe arguably one of the top 2 or 3 receivers ever at Arkansas, Treylon Burks, is now in the NFL. But you've got some speed out there. You've got size. You've got some weapons. But I'm really impressed. I was really impressed with Trey Knox today. What a game he had. Yes. What a game he had for a guy that was kind of just an afterthought in the receiver core. And, he moves over to tight end. And now he's a tweener tight end, in my opinion. He's just big enough to make that work. And he's just fast enough, being, kind of a tweener there. And we saw that pay off for Arkansas when he got down that right sideline for that touchdown. Mm-hmm. So there were a lot of positives too on both sides of the ball. I think the fact that Arkansas, you don't win that turnover battle without getting those 2 turnovers. And I thought those were plays made. Those weren't mistakes. Arkansas made a mistake when it fumbled at the 3-yard line. Yeah. That wasn't a defensive play that Cincinnati made. They made a play to fall on it. Arkansas made plays on the ball, both of the turnovers it created. So, yeah, we can look at the yardage. We could say that Cincinnati shot itself on the foot, made a lot of mistakes.
Sure.
But when you win against a good team, and a big part of that equation is you won the turnover battle because you made a couple of plays on defense to create a turnover, got to tip your hat to that because I think Arkansas I mean, to me, that as much as anything is why Arkansas wins this game.
Yeah, I agree. It was sloppy, and yet somehow, Arkansas figured out how to get out of that. I don't know. ESPN plugins on their site drive me crazy. They'll just start playing on their own. I need to remember to mute that more often. It just plays on its own.
Is that what that's called? Is that what's going on when that happens to me and I'm lost like a babe in the woods? I don't know how to stop it. I just throw my phone away and get a new one.
Drives me crazy, man.
And
they know what they're doing. ESPN knows what they're doing. But no, you're right. That play, and you're talking about how Cincinnati got that that fumble gift wrapped inside the 5-yard line, that KJ and Rocket, when they collided together. Arkansas earned their picks or their turnover or their takeaways. Jordan Dominic forced that fumble and then recovered it. And then, of course, you had the interception by Dwight McLaughlin. He was in the right place at the right time, but he made a great play on the ball. How about Sanders getting after the quarterback? There was certainly a little bit of pressure there. Arkansas earned, I think, what they got on defense. They were bend, don't break. I know fans are kind of tired of that. I know fans want more from the secondary. Like you said, that some of this is coachable. Maybe some of it's not. It's hard to coach speed, which a couple of these guys have. Bishop for a while was rumored to be one of the 3 or 4 fastest guys on the team, and he got beat on 2 plays on the same drive. If memory serves correctly, they looked, and I'll say this too, and I hate to keep harping on the secondary, but my gosh, they looked lost. In the comments, some Leslie here says Bobby Petrino is going to be he's got to be licking his chops. I agree. He's going to be. He is. I'm sure he is. Different.
We're jumping ahead 2 more weeks from now. We're going past South Carolina.
Yeah. Well,
everybody's going to tee up for that secondary, huh?
I think that's going to be the case. I think they're going to pick on Hudson Clark if he continues to play like, and we saw this last year out of Bishop as well. If he continues to get beat down the sidelines, if he struggles in man coverage, which has also been a Hudson Clark issue, primarily a Hudson Clark issue. Yeah, I think some of these offenses probably are licking their chops. I am very concerned about the secondary. Again, some of it probably is fixable. Some of it, a lot of it, yes, Slusher and Catalan not being out on the field does matter. Those are things that we have to consider. But at the same time, these are your starters. I think Dwight McLaughlin will probably take one of those spots. Clearly, Cincinnati came into this game. Let me read this here. This is from Shahid Mustafa, longtime Tuss Talk with Ty viewer as well. Glad to have you over here, Shahid. I know I'm going to say subscribe, but I know you already are. Clearly, Cincinnati came into this game to not get manhandled like Alabama did them. I think it may have caught Arkansas off guard a bit, being the first game at all, since he was very physical today.
Yeah, physical. And the other thing, Ty, is I think Arkansas, and I've looked back at this, and this is maybe nitpicking on offense, but I think some of their east-west plays take a little too long to develop instead of getting downhill. And I think they would – now, of course, Dominic's out. He's their hammer. But even with him, sometimes they try to get cute with some lateral type of plays, and some of that stuff's just a little too slow developing. Now, sometimes these things work, and you're like, oh, they're a genius. But I think Arkansas really needs to figure out in those packages what can they really count on. And it seemed like last year they just kind of lingered with some of the stuff that wasn't working too long. Game 1 you can learn from maybe, and let's see if they continue to try to do things. The old saying, you keep repeating the same thing and with no better results, that's in definition of insanity. Some of those things get Arkansas, behind the sticks, behind the down and distance. And now they're struggling to make it up. And then I think the other thing, when I looked at KJ's performance today, I mentioned some of the gaffes. I thought he missed, he obviously wasn't on target on some guys. I think there was a Rocket Sanders reception when he had just a wide open field throwing back and overthrew him, and he got off balance and tripped over a 3-yard gain, which, he might have gone for another 30, maybe to the house. And just, some other plays where receivers where I thought were open. But when you look at it statistically, he was still overall really good. I mentioned what he did against the blitz. You can't ask for more than that facing pressure. And this guy shows us today. I mean, remember last season, the season opener against Rice, he had an awful first half, very pedestrian game overall statistically. Had one of his 4 picks, only 100 and something yards, 12 of 21 throwing the ball. He wasn't perfect today, but 4 touchdowns and putting up the numbers he did and making plays, running and throwing, and then again picking up some big third downs Arkansas needed or beating the blitz. So if he wasn't, I don't know what a percentage I'd give him today for being at his best. He looked like he was gimpy a few times and dealing with some pain off some shots he took, because you mentioned how physical since he was. But I thought he responded, and I thought he came up big for Arkansas. And if this wasn't one of his better games, and he strings together a lot of really good games, that may be just enough for Arkansas, even if it is struggling a little bit in certain areas.
Yeah, hopefully this is the catalyst. We go back. Last year it was Texas. Texas was the catalyst when he really turned the corner. Clearly they didn't look good against Rice. They turned around. Look what they did. Say what you want about Texas. I'll agree. Texas was atrocious by their standards. They were not good under first-year head coach Steve Sarkisian. But Texas was the catalyst for his season. I hope that this was, because I'm with you. I think he was outstanding. They struggled stopping him, especially in the fourth quarter. It almost felt like he was toying with them on his rushing, whether they were designed or not. They didn't know how to contain him. He's just running through them, and they talked about that. They talked about KJ's the type of guy that could just run through you. That was something that the Cincinnati media and the folks were saying up there. So that's exactly what happened. I mean, very impressed by him today. Was he phenomenal? I don't know. 4 touchdowns and like you said, close to 300 yards total offense. That's not half bad. And Cincinnati is a quality team.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, again, you have to, he's so multiple in how he can beat you. You talked about running over guys. He's faster than you think, or quicker to a hole than you think. And I mean, maybe most fans now that are Arkansas fans think exactly what I think, but until you actually see it, you forget about it. You have an off season, you forget. Sometimes he gets in the open field, then it's hard to get, then now it's a load coming at you. And he just kind of and then, some of the passes he made with touch day on the move, I thought he was actually better with some of the touch on his passes when he was really moving, as opposed to some of the stuff where he wasn't moving as much and there was more of that trickery going on. And, they were just kind of out of sync. So I think, again, you look at him, he can beat you in so many ways. The jump pass to Knox, that pass, by the way, to Hazelwood for that touchdown, where he put it right where it needed to be, and effectively 3 defenders around that.
Oh, that was not.
And you go to the OU transfer, who was a big time, receiver there. I mean, that was a nice money ball right there for that first touchdown.
Yeah, were the 3 defenders. Okay, yeah, because he had a couple of what I thought were pretty nifty throws. That one, and then the kind of dump Tebow-ish type throw to Knox.
Yeah.
I mean, he's full of surprises, and it seems like every game we see something a little bit different out of him. That was the case a year ago. It was more of the same, but with a little bit nicer touch, little zing, little extra surprise behind whatever he's doing.
Well, because he can break plays off either by design or when a passing play does break down, with either the hammer bowling over, or gets in the open field with enough quickness and speed. Now it opens up your playbook even around the goal line, because that little jump pass, he was faking a quarterback's, keeper, kind of that little shoulder into the line and then raise up and dump it over with a little jump pass. But you have to count for everything with him, because he might just keep it. He can read those situations and get it done more than one way. And that's you look at Cincinnati's quarterback today, as good as he was at times, he's not going to beat you with his legs.
Yeah.
He had a solid game, but he's not going to beat you with his legs. He's not a guy, but the problem there was Arkansas really, other than making a few plays like we talked about, this guy got things going in the second half, and it made the game really close. Arkansas was bend but don't break, but let's not also forget in the third quarter they were mostly break. They were mostly break, and aided by some mistakes on that after that fumble recovery by Cincinnati, which I was shocked to see 4 5-yard penalties just bam, bam, bam. That really, I mean, if they get in the end zone, that's 14 points and effectively in a minute after just scoring a touchdown in 3 plays, going 71 yards to tie the game, going from 21-7 down, 21-all. That's a different kind of game. And so that drive to me might have been as big as any, because Arkansas got Cincinnati going backwards without really having to do anything but watch the yellow flags come out. It was a bizarre series.
Yeah, four flags on that. And they started at the 3-yard line.
Yeah.
I mean, that was wild. I don't know. I mean, sure, we've seen stuff similar to that, but it's been a minute. That was insane. I thought for sure, they've got the ball at the 3. They're in a groove here. They're feeling it. The crowd has kind of settled in a little bit, and then all of a sudden the crowd got into it. Especially after that, I think the second flag, the crowd just got louder and louder. And I've been saying for years, Fayetteville is one of the most underrated, overlooked when we talk about, difficulty for the opponent to come in and to deal with that crowd. It is one of the loudest. Yeah. And now that you have that north end zone more or less kind of walled, I don't want to say walled off, but it's a little bit more filled out with the renovations and the completely new the new part of the north end zone. Having that, those whatever amount of seats that adds, and then you've kind of walled it off a little bit, it makes it intensifies, and it keeps that sound inside the stadium a little bit more. So I think Fayetteville is a vastly underrated stadium. I think more people need to talk about the difficulty of dealing with that hog wild crowd inside that stadium in Fayetteville. Ben Bryant was on fire in the second half. I don't know his numbers in the second half overall, and I was going to wait to kind of get into all the statistics with Dudley. I was going to go over that with him because he and I were kind of talking about that a little bit at the game. But Ben Bryant did end up throwing for 300-plus yards, 325, 2 touchdowns. He threw a pick. He was on fire. You mentioned him coming out in the third quarter. That opening drive was 12 plays, 75 yards, and they capped it off with that touchdown.
Well, and we mentioned the 2 touchdowns and a pick. He probably left 3 or 4 touchdowns on the table.
Yeah.
But some of those overthrows or one play he underthrew a guy that caught it, but he might have slipped out and finished that with a touchdown, and he thrown it, in stride over the shoulder. And I think, by the way, I wanted to ask you what your Dubinion opinion is. What do you think there? Because that guy just
he made a play. I don't remember what carry it was. I think it was the last time he carried the ball, but he kind of made this Alex Collins like cut,
hard cut, man. I loved it.
Just blew up off that cut, and I saw that, and I told our Discord, I was like, wow, that's very Alex Collins-ish, Collins-ish. That was a lot of burst out of that cut. I mean, it was beautiful.
He's got a little bit more steam than AC had, and that a heck of a running back. Yeah. I'm not diminishing AC. A hell of a running back.
Great.
But this guy's got a little bit more steam and power once he gets north and south. And AC was no slouch, man. That dude could do it.
Yeah, I've always kind of thought of AC as one of the top 3 greatest backs because of what he accomplished, and he was so fun. I thought he had next level vision. I mean, it's like everything was so slow for him, and he wasn't the fastest guy. I think he ran like a 4.55 at the combine or something. He just had wonderful vision, great cuts, was good north south or east west, didn't really matter. I mean, he just kind of, and he fit the NFL. Dubinion, no, I'm glad you kind of brought that up because I was gonna mention him later. I was gonna mention the backs plus Dubinion. I am impressed with him, and he's absolutely had. He looked good in fall camp, and it's kind of hard to judge because they don't bring him to the ground when they go fastball. When they do one-on-ones, they don't bring him to the ground. You'd be crazy to do that too often. But Dubinion, watching him through drills, you could see it. You could see that burst. You could see that cut, and I thought, if he can do that in full pads week to week, they've got something special in Dubinion. Absolutely.
Yeah, sometimes you want your back instinctively to plant that foot and get north and south. And I think as good as Sanders is and some of the other players that Arkansas has, he brought just a little bit. Now, we didn't see enough of him to say this is going to be consistently at this point. But just some of that stuff, it looked a little bit different. and it caught my eye. So I wanted to see what you thought, because you saw these guys in practice throughout camp. I didn't have that luxury, and seeing it today, it was fresh and new to me. So I was kind of curious what your thoughts were.
Yeah, like I said, I thought all the backs through fall camp looked great. I mean,
Yeah.
and we don't even talk about James Joyner. Like James Joyner is a guy. Otis Kirk was real big on James Joyner, and he's kind of gone down the pecking order yet. I think Joyner is a guy that could go somewhere and be a great change of pace back somewhere. I think he'd be a 2 or 3 guy just about, in a lot of different schools in this league. And then you got DeBinion, of course, AJ Green.
AJ Green had a few nice plays today.
You sure did. I mean, Rocket, of course. I mean, I've got people throwing out at me, oh, he's a Heisman contender. Whoa, pump the brakes.
Who's that, Rocket? KJ or Rocket or DeBinion or who?
Rocket, because he had some,
I don't know. Well, yeah, he had a really nice game today, but
yeah, they're loaded. I mean, that's what's great. They didn't have Dominic Johnson today. And something else too. Someone mentioned Knox in chat, how they had he had 2 touchdowns, had a great game. He was also their leading receiver. All this talk through fall camp about how these receivers are phenomenal, and I'm not hating on him. Look, since he's known for having great secondaries, even though they lost a lot of guys, to the draft and whatnot, and there's a lot of turnover back there. A lot of experience though this year. I thought they did a pretty good job matching up against Arkansas's receivers. So what did KJ do? He threw to his check down. He threw to Trey Knox. I said before the season started, I don't know if he's an every down type tight end. I don't know if he's somebody, and we saw him. He missed a block today, actually. Yeah. I think they showed that on replay, but then he makes up for it in the passing game. I said, I put him in the 40-plus category in terms of receptions. He's off to a great start, Kevin.
Yeah, 75 yards and 2 touchdowns, but I think a couple of those receptions not only were third down to help Arkansas move the sticks, but I think a couple of those were really tough catches. I mean, 2 defenders on him right in the middle of the field, balls high.
Yep.
He extends those long arms and holds on to it. But yeah, so I think he was more than just, some of the highlights that make it, to SEC now later tonight, getting in the end zone. I think he did some other stuff in this game. And I was impressed, when we talk about Arkansas, to me, their size in their receiving core. They've got really good size. And I, Trey Knox to me is a tweener. I know he's a tight end, but I throw him in with that group as far as guys that not only have size, but enough speed with that size to make a difference.
Yeah.
And so we didn't see Arkansas air raid it today. 224 yards is respectable, 223. I think they were 224 on the ground, almost identical numbers. And, so you want balance. That's balance. But I think, I think we're going to see some of these receivers get behind the defense and make some plays at some point. We didn't see it today.
Nope. And based on what we saw, and Dudley, who is with us, we're going to bring him on here next here in just a minute. That's something Otis, Kirk, and I saw it. Dudley saw it. Everyone that was there. John, our photographer, saw it. The receivers were the highlight through camp. Hudson Clark, some would argue, might have been the MVP of camp. He had something like 4 or 5 picks through camp and looked really good. Got beat a couple times. Warren Thompson cut him off at the ankles in their one-on-one drills. But the receivers were the talk of camp, yet it was Knox today that came through clutch for Arkansas in the passing game. Just phenomenal. All right, we're going to try and throw this ad up here. I'm going to see if this works. Kevin, thank you so much, man. You were awesome.
Man, good to be with you guys, Ty. I love football too. I don't cover it, but we did today. I've got a story I'm working on right now with some of those little nuggets, statistical and trend nuggets I was talking about. So that'll be at hogfield.net.
Well, really quick. You do have a basketball update. We talked about the beginning. You want to do that really quick?
Well, Jace Richardson, class of 2024, Rivals ranks him number 20, a 5-star player, 6'4" guard out of Gorman Bishop in Las Vegas. Took an unofficial visit to Arkansas today, went to Razorback basketball practice at the Performance Center this morning, was at the game, the football game, so that's a nice segue. But here's a guy that's highly rated as a 5-star in that 2024 class. His dad, Jason Richardson, was a 14-year NBA vet, won a national title at Michigan State in 2000, played for Musselman and Keith Smart at Golden State when Muss was the head coach, and Smart was an assistant coach back in 03 and 04, because that's where Richardson started his career. The Warriors drafted him in 01. Two-time dunk champ, but his son, when you look at him, when I watch him on film, he's not as explosive or as much of a slasher above the rim guy, but at 6'3", 6'4", long arms, knows how to use his frame to get into other players in his drive game, gets to spots he likes, a good catch and shoot three-point guy, just a heady all-around player. And you look at him statistically last year at Bishop Gorman, 14 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, couple of steals. So he's not a one-trick pony. He does a lot of things that lead to winning, and this is a very young player, just a sophomore last year, now a junior, but took that UOV to Arkansas today, got in late last night, but for everything I'm hearing is it's going really well at Arkansas today for Jace Richardson, a name to keep to remember in 2024.
Muss continues to kill it. Eric Musselman continues to kill it. Kevin McPherson also continues to kill it for Hogville.net. You guys can check out all of his content covering the Razorback basketball team over there. 100% what, Kevin? What is it?
Free.
It's free. That's right.
And it's like a prime steak. It's not some crappy drive-through. This is normally you get. They say you get what you pay for, but actually you get quality and it's free.
There you go. Kevin McPherson, everybody. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Kevin.
All right, Ty. See you next time.
At Direct Service Garage Doors, we are your one-stop shop for all things garage door. From garage door repair and broken spring replacement to new garage doors and openers, we do it all. We're proud to be among the highest-rated local garage door companies in all of Central Arkansas. Our highly trained technicians are available 24 hours a day at no extra cost to you. So if you have an emergency, call us today, 501-244-3667, or visit our website at directserviceoverhead.com. Don't wait days. We'll fix it now.
Oh, look at that. It's on my face now. I got to get this figured out, you guys. Hang on just a second. We're going to bring Dudley Dawson in. Of course, that was Kevin McPherson, who does basketball. He is absolutely a basketball junkie, but he helps us out with like he did tonight, and he did a fantastic job. Next up, the man who I went to the game with today, Mr. Dudley Dawson. Dudley, how you doing? Uh-oh. I don't know why he's muted. Hang on a second. You got a great signal, but you're muted.
There you go.
There you go. Oh, okay. It was you, not me.
Yes.
We're running into a lot here, a lot of technical glitches and stuff. Go ahead. Start from the top. I'm sorry.
Well, I was saying that it's good to get the college football season going. Obviously, neither one of these teams played perfect and are as good as they will be at the end of the year. Certainly, neither one as good as they were at the end of last year. But you could see some promise in both these teams. Obviously, it looked like a first game, too many penalties, too many mistakes. I thought Cincinnati missed a couple of scoring opportunities, obviously early when they got behind Arkansas's defensive backs. And it got tough to see who was out there at times. So with the defensive backs, you lost both Catalan and Miles Slusher. Very early on in the game, they were reserved. Kind of got beat a couple of times, but overall, good football game. Get a lot on tape now, and it was actually good to see tackle football instead of just thudding stuff.
Oh my gosh, this is my first year doing this. And going to those, I went to a lot of the fall camp. I went to just about every one of them except for maybe two. I wanted to get there, wanted to experience it, but I can't imagine what it's like for these guys to finally go out and hit somebody else. That had to be a great feeling.
Yeah, and it was, it gets very monotonous with the practice, and they were glad to get somebody in front of them. Of course, it looked like Miles Slusher actually hurt himself by delivering a hit. Coach Pittman pointed out he doesn't know yet, how long they're going to be gone, if they will miss next week and all that. But yes, he got hurt delivering the blow. And, What an interesting day overall, I guess.
Crazy, sloppy. Guys getting, like you mentioned, getting banged up. Offense. I want to start there because you and I both kind of talked about it while we were there. Let's just come out and say it. The play calling was suspect, especially in the first half. Give us your thoughts.
Well, I thought the first drive, looked pretty well. I thought they had it scripted and came out and did things, but then, got into a malaise and really didn't get anything going, whether it was penalties, whether it was mistakes, in the offensive line, mistakes in the backfield, even mistakes with the quarterback. KJ had some really good throws today, but he also had some that you looked and said, what was he doing there? What was he thinking? Including one time when he threw one away in the end zone when I thought he could have maybe got the first down just by running it. Obviously, I think that the defense really helped out the offense a lot today in terms of helping them get points with Dwight McLaughlin's 51-yard interception in return, and then obviously the big play by Jordan Dominic, who the Georgia Tech defensive end transfer, who Coach Pittman got after pretty good. After first few days of practice, and basically was saying he didn't. And at Georgia Tech, maybe they didn't practice as hard and as insightful or whatever as they do up here. And he kind of answered the challenge. That play probably saved the football game. I mean, because I think they were going to go in and score, tie it up, and then you've got people getting nervous, especially when you're the home team and weren't getting anything done offensively. Jordan Dominic makes that big play where he gets a sack, strip, and the recovery. And, all of a sudden, you're on their 49-yard line. A couple plays later, 17-yard pass to Jaden Hazelwood, and then dropped one off to Trey Knox, who might be the star of today, at least the unexpected star. 7 catches, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a great catch on the first one down there. KJ's jump pass, which was a little awry.
Just a little bit. Unfortunately, I had to go back and watch the highlight, but I was able to go back and catch it. At that point in time, I was heading to my car, trying to haul butt to get home to get this all set up and ready. Also, really quick, take a second here. Please, if you haven't already, if you're new here, make sure you've subscribed to the channel. Go to hogville.net. Free content from Otis, Kirk, Dudley Dawson, Kevin McPherson, who, of course, covers basketball. He was kind enough to help us today. Free content over there. And also share the content that goes a real long ways. Let's go over these numbers here really quick. We'll start off with the offense. We started there talking about some of the suspect play calling. KJ did end up having a good day, a really good day. 18 to 26, 223. Just right at about 9 yards per completion, but he ends the game with 4 total touchdowns, 3 passing. Raheem Sanders, 20 carries, 117 yards. KJ ran the ball 18 times today. That's got to be up there in terms of his most carries in a game. I know he had multiple 15, 16 yard or 16 carry games, but he ended up with 18 carries, 62 yards. We saw AJ Green. And Kevin McPherson brought up Rashad DeBinion, who had 2 carries for 16 yards. And then, of course, Hornsby had that scramble off the double pass that was meant to be thrown downfield. Well, he goes and he picks up 13 yards. What did you make of the running backs today? Where would you kind of, moving forward, is it the same? Are we going to see AJ Green? Of course, we know Dominic Johnson's going to be back next week, or at least we think. Let me say we think he's going to be back. But do you think maybe DeBinion might get some more carries? What do you think moving forward with this running back?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think everybody assumes that when Dominique Johnson comes back, he'll automatically be number 2. Obviously, he's the biggest of the running backs. You can argue night and day on who's the best, but Rocket Sanders is the starter and has been, told he's going to get the majority of the carries. But from what you saw out of Dominion today, and Coach Pittman after the game in his press conference brought him up, and they're real high on him. He obviously has an in with the running back coach, and that Jimmy Smith used to be the coach down there from the same school that Rashad's at. Family, friends, they've known each other for a long time. but you saw a couple plays from him today that he made. I guess when it all comes down to it, whoever can block is going
True.
to step in there and probably get those third carries. Whether it's AJ Green, whether it's Dominion, but Dominion certainly put his best foot forward today. And I got to tell you, I just thought probably as soon as Johnson came back that he would be moved in there and Dominion would start working on his red shirt. Now I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous, the talent that they have back there and how they distribute the ball. It's nice to have someone like Rocket Sanders who's got that burst and that speed. And then you got Dominic Johnson, who's a little bit more built, a little bit more of a physical type, heavier back. AJ Green's the track guy back there with a lot of burst, a lot of speed. And then Dominion, who made a beautiful cut. I don't know if you got a chance to really see it up there, but that cut was gorgeous. I mean, the burst off of it was insane. I thought I compared it to a very Alex Collins type move. Really
and the defender face planted. The defender face planted. I said the defender face planted off of that move. He just went straight to the ground. What's interesting to me, they obviously are going to use Malik Hornsby in a lot of ways. For the longest time, he just ran around all over the place as a decoy, and it was getting to the point that nobody was taking him seriously, I guess. And then all of a sudden they do that, what I guess was maybe going to be a double pass. That's what it kind of looked like. It turned into a 13-yard gain, whatever it was, and it was a rush, not a catch on the official stats. But they have a lot of weapons, but a long way to go.
Yeah, it's still early. I think that's something we do need to stress more. This is game one. They were sloppy. Someone mentioned Cincy beat themselves. You can absolutely make that argument.
Mm-hmm.
Missed field goals, the penalties, 4 penalties when they started off. Kevin and I talked about that as well. 4 penalties, and they started off at the 3-yard line. Well, then they end up having to settle for the field goal because they were so far back. They did, but you can also make the same claim, with Arkansas. They also made a lot of miscues, I felt like they may have left some points on the field. It was a game that you could tell both these teams a lot of rust. How would you assess the offensive line play today?
Average. I mean, they rushed for what I guess 200 and let's see. Let me get the stats here. I thought they were just okay. It wasn't the dominating thing that I think a lot of people thought. You look at the different things. Let me get my phone back here. You look at different things, and you expected that to be a strength of the team. Somebody had them ranked as the number 5, offensive line in the country. And I don't know that we saw that today. Maybe it was a bad day. Maybe it was cohesion. I'm just not sure. But I guess when you rush for 224 yards, you pass for 223. That's pretty good balance. But I thought, and Coach Pittman brought this up in the press conference after it was over with, they can be really, really good at times, and they can be really, really average at times. And I thought that's, they're pretty inconsistent today. And, there were several holding penalties in there, killed themselves a lot of times. And I didn't think they got as much push right up the middle as I thought they would.
They did later on, I thought later on in the game, the fourth, when Cincy was just wore out, it kind of felt like Arkansas could just do whatever they wanted. But yeah, you're right. Early on, I know we're sitting side by side. We saw it. I mean, there wasn't a lot of push. They weren't winning a lot of victories up front. And there were at times too where KJ had to panic and had to, run around a little bit. Let's just hope that is opening week jitters or rust or whatever. We've got people asking about the injuries. Did Sam Pittman give us an update on those guys in the secondary?
All he said, and certainly the question was asked, all he said is he didn't know yet. He'd have to get with the trainers after the game. He was worried really at first that Slushers was really bad, but when he got up and was able to get off the field by himself, that made him feel a lot better. But he did not have right after the game the situations. I'm guessing that we'll probably learn that at Monday's press conference. The extent of that. They keep those things pretty tight. After ball games and stuff.
Yeah.
if you can't see it. So, but Slessor and Catalan being out of your secondary, that left you tough. I do think we should go back and probably give Cincinnati's defensive line some credit, because I thought they played well and did what I think they came to do, was try to slow down the running attack of Arkansas, even though they got 223 yards.
Yeah, they did. You're right. Their defensive line fought. I mean, it was a fight in the trenches. I mean, it was a very physical game up front. I mean, that's the expectation every week. Arkansas is very physical. Now they've got some size behind them, and more experience, more starts behind them. So I hope they're able to move past that this week, because I do think it was average. I think that's appropriate. I really do. Wideouts today, they weren't. And again, we mentioned this earlier. They were not the stars that me, you, Otis. We saw it fall camp. That's all we talked about. Wide receivers were phenomenal. Warren Thompson, Hazelwood, so on and so forth. But it was Trey Knox today that was the star, Dudley, in the passing game.
Yep, 6 catches, 75 yards. I think, obviously Matt Landers came out pretty hot there, had a couple of catches. Hazelwood had, a really good one. I think a 17-yarder on that last touchdown that kind of got him over the top there. And, you saw, cut Warren Thompson make a couple plays, but nothing too over the top. I think they played adequately today. Showed some flashes, showed some potential, but I think there was, at times too much pressure on KJ for him to have to, to be able to let them make plays themselves.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, hey, first post game live show, I think was a success despite some of the issues. Hey, look, it's going to be that way every week. We're going to have some things we're going to have to iron out as we go. But I want to thank Kevin McPherson for taking the time and coming in for us kind of at the last hour and come on and help us cover the Razorbacks. Dudley, thank you so much. I had a blast today, man.
Yeah, we'll get our pre-snap penalties out of the way and be ready to go next week.
Woo! We had less flags in this post-game show than what we saw. That was unreal. A lot of flags. So, again, hopefully that's just week one jitters. All right. Again, remember, guys, subscribe, like, share, all that stuff. Make sure you check out the article. Dudley will have his story out if you don't already have it out.
Yeah, we're gonna have four of them out. We've already got an early gamer up that Courtney Mims put up, but I'll be writing 3. Kevin's writing 1. We'll have plenty to read.
There you go. All free too. So
yep, that's what I hear.
What's that?
So that's what I hear.
Yeah, a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, Hog fans.
Brandon Rollsworth says bye.
I was gonna say that's a good look back there. I'm digging that. That's pretty nice, actually. Good spot, good location. I see what you did there.
All right, man.
All right, Woo Pig Hog fans. We'll see you guys on the next one. Go Hogs.